Kevin Totimeh is an animator, singer, and voice actor. He's joining me today to talk about digital media education, doing artistic projects for his church, and the training he's gotten for singing and his other passions. I hope you enjoy our fun conversation.
Who are you and how did you get involved in voice acting?
My name is Kevin Totimeh. I am a animator, a cartoonist, a voice actor, singer, and musician. I come from an artistic background. I was always the creative, goofy kid that always loved claymation, the golden age of animation, Cartoon Network, all that classic stuff. I also come from a stage background from church, as I've also been singing since I was 5 years old and performing since I was 5 years old.
When did you decide that you wanted to do voice acting?
I guess it just kind of came into my lap when I went to my 4 year university. My close friend, who's also an animator and performer like me, he was auditioning for a personal project and he was looking for someone that could play established roles such as Mickey Mouse, the Looney Tunes, and others for his short film. So I auditioned for him in about 2023. And then a few months later, late night, February 2024, I got announced that I got the parts. I was a bit nervous going in the first day, but the recording session went well. And then I started taking more classes to really hone the craft and expand my versatility while I was still animating and singing. So that's how it all happened. And then he started to tell people about me and my skills, and then I started reading and getting cast for original roles from villains to timid characters to elderly to Shakespeare medieval accents, that kind of thing. So, it just kind of happened. And then later words towards my final semester, I finally met my singing teacher to help with my vocal versatility and help me with my singing because I was in a little bit of a mental rut, but thanks to her, I have my singing skills back.
Do you think that singing and voice acting can relate to each other in any ways?
Oh, absolutely. Of course, there are differences, but there's a lot of similarities. Like, you have to put in the emotion into what you are telling in your story. So, it's not just about belting for the sake of belting. You're communicating your feelings to your audience so they can help interpret what you're saying and doing. So, there's a lot of similarities. Of course, there's, mic technique and microphone picks up resonance with your vowels and consonants, and there's no principle. So, absolutely, absolutely.
What kind of characters do you like to play the most?
Well, the big ones were obviously Mickey Mouse and the Looney Tunes and other big roles. Even though I've done so many independent projects already, that was such a big honor saying that, okay, I'm not the official VA, but at least I put that on my resume. that I did those roles. So those are my favorites, along with any other character I get to create. Like I said, I do villains and accents and what have you. So.
Did you take any classes specifically for voice acting?
Yes, as well as Mesnier improv, because, even though there's not too many in voiceover, there are times in an audition or a session where they'll say, okay, you can improvise a little bit, just give us what you got. And, I was also that kind of strange kid that also talked to myself a lot. So that also kind of helped me in a strange way with that. So improv, voiceover classes, and then, of course, the extra singing training I got a while ago. So that really helps for sure. And I still take them every now and again when I'm not animating or doing other creative stuff.
I want to ask you about animation. So, how long have you been doing that? And what kind of styles have you grown to enjoy or wanted to learn?
I've been animating for about 3.5, almost 4 years now, and my favorites are stop motion and 2D animation. I love those. Outside of singing and voiceover, it's a place where I also get to express myself in no matter a goofy or a dramatic way. So those are my favorite styles because, I grew up on the classic stop motion and 2D stuff.
Has animation helped you be a better voice actor?
Yes, absolutely, because the performance really helps guide the character or story that I work on. With my skills, I can able to play around with impact frames and, squash and stretch and, anticipation, which are super key to being a great animator as well as putting in the work. So, absolutely, absolutely for sure.
If somebody wants to learn how to animate, where would they start?
Because of the internet, a lot of people can film and animate at their homes right now. You just have to know your budget, know your equipment. Like I said, just put in the work because, like voiceover and music, animation is a lot of work. There will be days where I said that, I don't know, should I have done this right? Or should I have held this back? Or should I have done a different frame rate? It really comes down to that and just having, the passion for it because storytelling is the best form of expression. And I think doing all these mediums that I do it gets me a chance to do that.
Why do you love storytelling?
I just love connection. You just get to connect people with stories, whether that's, a gag-based story or a drama or a romance. Storytelling just gets me excited because it's a form of self-expression. In the fact that I get to do it in so many different mediums outside of being an animator, it just makes me happy because those are the people, I grew up with, the the Michael Jacksons, the Chuck Jones, the Robin Williams, Jim Henson. So, yeah.
Do you have any specific goals that you want to achieve with voice acting, animation, singing, any of the art forms that you like to use?
I like to continue just doing what I love doing, and I just hope that, people get to watch my work and get to connect with it because, that's the stuff that I grew up with. I have so many ideas in my head that, I want to put out to the world. So I just want to continue doing what I'm doing.
Is there anything you're currently working on that you're really excited about?
I just finished a graduation short film for an animator in the Netherlands. I just finished my test for it, and then I'm working on for a local church. They asked me to animate for them as well as narrate. I did get hired from an indie animation studio that I just did a recent interview for that I got hired for to be their voice actor and sound designer for, so I'm super excited about it. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
The church project you're talking about, can you tell me a little bit more about that? Have you done that in the past? And what kind of are you doing specifically for them?
So my aunt, who goes to the same church with me, I've been going to that church for about, I think, almost 20 years now. And like I said, that's the place where I got my singing and music background from. Churches back then, they didn't really use much animation, not even my church. But this year, my aunt came up with a brilliant idea saying that, my nephew Kevin, he's very versatile. He's an artist. Maybe I should pitch him this project that I have in mind. So she gave me a Google Doc of what the project is. She gave me directions of how to animate it and what style she wants, and she gave me the dialogue to narrate and the direction for that. So it kind of came naturally, all these opportunities. They just came from people that are slowly starting to get to know me and what I do. I'm so glad that she thought of me when it came to that project.
Are there any challenges that you've come up against that you've overcome?
I did go through a mental rut where, I thought I had to be a people pleaser and having to do things that I didn't want to do. So loving myself was the first thing. And the challenges financially was I can't afford to, go to LA and get an agent, the classic stuff. But I'm glad that, my manager who's been helping me with my recording and my family members are slowly starting to see me, as well as independent studios are starting to discover who I am and giving me jobs and gigs. So that was the hardest thing, especially after graduating recently, was financial stability, just trying to make money for myself so I can continue to do what I'm doing. So those were the personal and financial struggles that I went through, and I really had to work hard, and I still work hard today for that.
Why did you decide to have somebody help kind of manage what you're doing, and how has that been helpful for you?
It was helpful because my mom, who is the best mom ever, she's been helping me with the job search. She told me that, Kevin, you should show your portfolio. You should show your talents to people. So she told my uncle, who's an audio engineer and a tech guy, and he called me and he said that, Kevin, you need to put yourself out there. I want to help you. So I'm very blessed to have him because he's such a sweet, knowledgeable guy, and he's been such a huge help with in terms of getting my recording equipment and, helping me, figure out what projects is best for me. And I'm just so thankful for him. I'm not a big star, so I'm just fortunate that I have people like that.
Has he taught you any of the sound design, audio engineering skills that you have?
He has taught me, how to hear myself and other aspects because, sound design and post-production is very key in voiceover and music. During my time in college, I studied sound design, which also helped.
Was that your main area of focus in college, sound design?
I majored in visual media arts so I can get into
Okay.
animation. So I just wanted to just hone my craft and really just become a whole package because I do so many creative stuff. I really had to work hard that first year to get my portfolio submitted.
What's the process for putting that together? What's needed and how long does that take?
Well, it depends on the school you're going to. Some will ask you can put animations or some physical media in there. Your art statement, it has to be almost like your resume. It's going to tell the people who are looking at it who you are and why you do art in the first place. So those are the key principles that are essential to a great portfolio, as well as, of course, great clarity and lighting because they want to see your work.
What would be your advice for people that are just starting voice acting, animation, singing, those kind of things?
First thing is passion because you need to be very, 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 very passionate about what you are doing. Focus on what you want and why you are doing it. Because if you know the how and why, then everything will fall into place for you. Second is, of course, training. As a singer, you need to understand that your voice is your muscle, and like any muscle, you have to know its functions and how it works. I highly recommend that you can afford a singing teacher or a voice coach. That is very, very helpful. And being a great singer, you're not going to sound great at the beginning and that's okay because we're all learning every single day. So don't worry about that. In terms of voice acting, of course, the key word is actor. So study acting or improv like I do, or any form of performing in your community to help you hone your craft. And in terms of animation, like singing and voiceover, animation, it's a lot of work. Every frame has to have a human distinct mind in it. So you need to be willing to understand that. You have to understand that the 12 principles are key for making the illusion of life become believable on the screen because that's what your audience are going to see. There are animation tutorials on YouTube. Again, you can learn animation by yourself. You don't have to go to school for that. If you're learning how to do stop motion, I highly recommend you study behind the scenes of your favorite stop motion filmmakers and directors and how they built their armatures, built their puppets, built their sets, what lighting was appropriate for the sequence they were working on and filming, and especially learn how to use a camera because the camera is also going to become a character in your story.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I appreciate your time.
Oh, of course, of course.